My name is THEBIGZILL Onair. And I'm considering changing my name actually. It has become apparent to me that a lot of people are finding it difficult, too many people for that matter. Over the past 15 years, I've been finding it difficult to learn how to say and write my name. The sound that I play, I had dubbed it premium beats. And it appears to become a natural synergy to ultimately change to premium beats as a name. The question is, what do I do on radio? I'm a radio personality, which simply means I am a broadcaster. I'm currently with Rise FM. Started in 2005 with a campus community radio under the Tshwane University of Technology. It was then called TUT Top Stereo when we started. I was the second generation to be taken in by Jeremy Thorpe, who is the station manager. I understand he's still there. He's the man who gave me the opportunity, the first opportunity. And then I moved in 2008 to BCRFM, Barberton Community Radio, and got my first paying opportunity professionally with SABC in the province of Mpumalanga with the radio station Likwalakwala FM. I was then headhunted by Times Media when they bought and took over the then radio station that was called Empower FM. I was amongst the people that were offered the opportunity to join the station, and it was then converted into Rise FM. The format had changed, the direction had changed, the target market had changed, and they were interested and intending to focus more on Africans as a community of listeners. And I thought it made sense for me, and it opened an opportunity for one to build my profile in another different type of platform of radio, because there are different types, and I had already done community radio and SABC with Likwalakwala FM, that is public broadcasting, and Rise FM is a commercial radio station, and I wanted to dabble and learn another type of radio, which has been a great journey. I've been with them since 2014. The one thing that comes into mind that I can never forget is the fact that radio looks charismatic. It looks like it has the diamonds and the gold and the bells. It's a beautiful place to be at. But many of us have had to really pay the price to be on radio. We had to answer the question, how really bad do you want it? I say this because I served on community radio for more than 6 years. 6 years and a couple of months, I think, before getting my first paying opportunity. Now you can imagine that during that time, my peers were changing gears in terms of progress in life. They were getting married, they were buying houses, buying cars, traveling. It's the dream of every young person to progress like that. And at times, with a good heart, they would invite me to some of the things, the gatherings, as friends, and say, yo, so-and-so is getting married in Free State. Are you coming? And I would be out there at Barberton Community Radio and be like, I'd love to come, but I'll come with what? Moreover, I don't want to go to the trip, the excursion, the ceremony, the gathering, and have to depend on somebody else. It's not a nice thing to do. Become umthwalo womunye umuntu. Even if they were able and could afford to assist me like that, it would feel like I'm forcing things. Many of those events took place, and it can crush you. It can bring you to a point where you question your vision, you question your dream, you question, is it really worth it? But it's still the answering of the question, how bad do you want it? And it was in 2007. Between 2007 and 2006, I had to really decide if this is what I want to pursue first amongst all my dreams. And that question came about because then, in fact, it was 2006. What happened was, in 2005 late, my father said to me, after I had dropped out of school but still continued with radio, he said to me, next year this time, you are on your own. When he said that, so that simply meant that he would stop paying rent for me to be in the city of Tshwane. He would stop sending money for food, and I would have to survive on my own. And he said to me, next year, this time you're on your own. And as a young person, you have all these dreams and things you want to do, and you are energetic and positive, and you think everything will happen, and they will happen in time. And it's a great energy, and I always say nobody should ever lose that. I carry a lot of it with me up until today, even though now I move with wisdom that comes with growth. When that time came, I think it was around March. So he said it in March the previous year, for March the following year. In Feb, he calls me up and says, he gives me notice and say, you remember we have an agreement. I'm like, yeah, this man is serious, but like, yeah, he's not playing this one. Ooh. Which agreement time? Site next year this time, and next year this time has come. Month end, next month end. Sekunjalo ba. Ngata ngiyakhumbula time. Ngapha ngeminye angazi ukuthi wenzani life. But the fire and the passion for radio is burning. And I appreciate THEBIGZILL for doing that, because it forced me to grow up. It forced me to be independent. It forced me to think about where my next meal is going to come from. It forced me to take what I do seriously even the more. And in my head at the time, I was dreaming about today without knowing how and who is going to give me the opportunities. But the faith inside of me was certain that things will turn around. Hence today, one of my mottos is, the only guaranteed thing in life is change. I don't care what you're going through, change is guaranteed. Such is the engineering and the wiring of life. So, one thing one should never hold on to is the status quo. Even when things are going well, there has to be some form of change. And when things are going bad, also change is coming. Whether it's coming for good or it's coming for bad, but change is guaranteed. So now the end of March comes, and didn't call this time. He just didn't put in that money in that account. But I had already, one of my passions is real estate. I was learning a lot. I was reading a lot of books then about real estate, about investing, about personal development. So mentally, I am fit, I am ready, I am moving. So one of the things I was doing was, I was in an environment where a lot of people were in that frenzy of buying and selling real estate in the city of Tshwane, particularly flats for rentals. So private investors, so people who were the working class who wanted to diversify and have some form of investments, one of the things was real estate. It was a big thing then. Some were doing it for the purposes of flipping them and getting capital gains, some for the long term. One of the brothers I did this for is still in it up until today, which is quite very impressive. So what I would do, I would provide a service privately without being a real estate agent, go around and knocking on people's flats and asking them if they are willing, if they own the properties they live in, and if they're willing to sell or they intend to sell anytime soon. Leave my number there in case they decide to do so. They call me up and I connect them to the buyers. So I was not a real estate agent. I was just the person who sells the information of so-and-so wants to buy, so-and-so wants to sell. And I would get a commission from there if the buyer is honest. I ultimately met a conveyancer who also had registered a real estate agency who gave me his real estate certificate or the rights to sell the properties under his real estate, then register the properties under his conveyancer company or law firm. Then I would take the commission for real estate, which made things better, which was a serious hassle because I don't know what happens now, but back then to have a property sale go through would take about 3 to 6 months. You're waiting for a commission of 8,000-10,000 rand. But I remember my first real commission. Bought myself a laptop, sneakers, a trouser and a shirt. That laptop took me for a very long time within the radio space. And while I'm doing all of this, I'm still doing my radio show with TUT Top Stereo, Tshwane FM now. I'm explaining the challenges that came through, the hardships that comes to ask you the question, how hard do you want this? And some of the times, I remember there was a time when towards my departure in the city of Tshwane, I was now doing a weekend slot, weekend breakfast. And it was the only show that I could hang on to, not because I wanted to leave my weekly slot, but simply because I could not afford to come to Pretoria West from the city on a frequent basis. I could not afford a bus ticket off the university buses that costed at the time 5 rand a return. So it's 250 going, 250 coming back. I would not afford that. And I would have to walk from Pretoria Central or Sunnyside or Arcadia, depending on where I lived at the time, because I would move around a lot and walk to Pretoria West. So, if you know that city, you would understand that between Pretoria West and the city, on a Saturday morning, there is no transportation, public transport, that will take you there for a 6 o'clock show, because there is no transport at that time on a Saturday morning. So we would have to walk either on a Friday afternoon and go sleep over at the studio on Friday night to wake up and do the show in the morning. Or we would have to walk at 4 a.m., cross Marabastad, and go through to Pretoria West at TUT. Some of the times when we walked, we would be chased by thugs while carrying that laptop I bought with my real estate money. Luckily, they never caught us. So, those are some of the hardships that question and ask you, how bad do you want this? But the passion burns inside and says, I really enjoy doing this. I come alive when I'm doing this. I remember one time, one lady called in from one of the races at TUT while listening to the show and said, you know, you sound really great when you're doing the show on your own. Because we were co-hosting, there was 3 of us when we began. And when that lady called, I can't remember what her name was, but I remember the moment up until today. When you're doing the show alone, you sound really great. She planted a seed, and that seed has bared fruit. Today, I am still on radio, and I'm grateful. So it's not easy. It's not easy. When 2010 came, I was now in Barberton. 2010 FIFA World Cup. I was not able to go and watch any of the games when Barberton and the city of Mbombela are just 20 minutes away from each other. I could not afford to go and get a free ticket provided by the government to go and watch any of the games. My heart aches for 2010 when people were celebrating. Ooh. I could not also afford free transportation to be able to go to the free viewing sites. So and it would cost at the time 10 rand to get a taxi or hike, each hike to Mbombela. I would not have that 10 rand, so I'd need to have 20 bucks. Not worry about food, because I can leave Mdlile and enjoy the vibe and go back. But I could not even afford that. So those are some of the challenges. And you are still saying, I'm enjoying what I'm doing, so I never have to work a day ever again. All those things, they come at a price. You really, really, really must know that you really want this. But at the same time, I caution anybody who's interested in radio that when you hear a story such as mine, do not be disheartened, because your journey will definitely not be the same as mine. Each one of us, we have different journeys. There are people who never had to go through any of these things. They have their own challenges, their own set of hiccups. But everybody has to go through something You are writing your own story. And the question will be the same, but the answers will be different. The question is, how bad do you want it? Remember, if you fail to answer this question, you're gonna have to do a job that you hate and wake up to it every day because you settled for it. It is still a form of hardship. So the question is, what do you want to struggle for? Are you struggling with a vision in mind, or you are struggling because you accepted what life threw at you? Many young people, what I see today, I see it a lot with the young people we call Ama 2000. They are amongst the people who've received a silver platter. The challenge with receiving a silver platter is that you might run, don't have to, might run the risk of not appreciating the work that needs to be put in. So now you see a lot of young people acting like they're entitled to things. Somebody came to me the other day, last year, got my number from a friend, and they said they wanted to do radio and they would like me to mentor them. And when they called me up, I said, what's the story? I love radio. Please mentor me, Rodman. Oh, okay. He didn't know. His mentorship just began right there. I said to him, go find a community radio station and try to get in and get in. When you are in, call me. They thought I was playing. This young man called my friend who connected us and probably complained. So I get a call from my friend and said, if that young man needs help, what. I said, my brother, don't worry. His mentorship has begun. And he didn't make it. So he came back a month later, but this time he comes to the station at Rise FM just before my radio show. Hey, Rodman, it's me that was calling you. And man, I'm serious about this radio thing. What. Okay. Have you found a radio station, a community radio station, and got in? No. Where can I find a radio station? He said, we are playing you. You are asking me, you want to be on radio, but you're asking me, where are radio stations? You are playing. I left him there. A colleague of mine tried to explain to him in detail what it meant, what I was saying. But what I was doing was, I was giving him the tough love that I received. When I got to TUT Top Stereo, you were supposed to do everything by yourself, from the radio imaging, the preparing of the show, to the presentation of the show, everything that goes into the show, the music. You compiled your own music, you got your own sound bites, every single thing that goes into the program. Unlike professional radio, you are responsible for all of it. So one of the things I was unable to do at the time, I was new to, was radio imaging. Even the radio imaging itself. When we talk about radio imaging on radio, we're talking about the things you hear that brand the radio station, for example, Rise FM, 5 FM, Likwala Kwala FM. Those things that link the music till your next link. We call them radio imaging. So I find this other guy doing it for himself and his show on the computer. There's, hey brother, please do some for me as well. He looks at me. He saves his stuff and he says, there's the computer. We use this software. I could have thought that guy was rude, but it quickly hit me that I cannot expect him to do it for me. In any case, how am I going to learn? So what I did not start on that day. I came back the following day, and the following day, and the following day, and the following day, driven by passion to come and watch others do for themselves, to learn the programs and see what are they doing, how are they doing it. And by the time I left there, I was a pro. And moved on to be able to produce high quality radio ads, radio imaging, and all audio that needs to be recorded. I would sit in the studio for hours while people are going to bashes in the university and what. I'm in front of the computer there learning stuff on the internet, listening to what other people are doing and recording it, stealing sound bites and including them on my recordings and learning. That's what I would do. Even when I got to Pawaton Community Radio, the same thing. Sit for hours in the computer on the internet, listen to international radio stations, listen to local stations with pen and paper. What are they doing? After what? What happens from here? What are these people doing? How did he create what he's doing? When it comes out of a song, or she comes out of a song, what are they going to say? How are they going to say it? And the song is going to play with the music before the vocals, and just on time before the vocals come in, he stops speaking. How do they do it? I would ask myself the questions and I would go looking for the answers, and nobody would push me to do that. Up until today, I sit with YouTube and watch things over and over again, create playlists till today. And when I do it, I look like I'm crazy, but I am learning, because learning is a lifelong journey. And technology changes. You need to learn new things each and every time. The things I used to follow back then are not the things I'm following now, because now I need to learn new things. So that young man never came back, and it's almost a year now that he last came. He probably thought I didn't want to assist him, but I was giving him the tough love that builds people like myself. I came through that furnace, that fire. I'm not shaken by anything right now. I take each storm, I embrace it, and I come out on the other side looking like gold. But if you're going to do anything and you expect things to be easy, you want to be held by the hand. No. All you need is somebody to say to you, do this, and you go and do it. What you must ask yourself is, why do they say I must do this? There probably must be something I'm going to learn in it. It's not easy to get onto radio. The people who get in easy and do not respect the opportunity usually leave easy. So, if he ever gets to hear this, I'm still waiting for you, brother. I haven't given up on you. I'm not sure if the ladder is the term to use, but I am not done. I am beginning to not have the fire to be looking for the next radio opportunity. But I'm at a place where now I want to be able to see my own power. Because quite often we depend on the power of the stations that hire us. And we're not really sure if or how far our greatness goes. Because we use the stations that were contracted to as a crutch. It's almost guaranteed that there will be people listening because they love the station, and naturally they get to appreciate you, provided you're doing what they like. But I'm beginning to have a hunger for the space of podcasting, because that is purely me. It's purely the content creator. I would like to explore that space. It's a total different ball game that uses the same principles and tools and that radio does. It has opportunities, and we've seen people really make great deals through content, benchmarking with what others are doing around the world. It's a growing space, and it's a space I'm really keen on fusing it together with my DJ career, which is still quite young. I started in 2014 learning how to DJ, and have created now the brand Premium Beats. And I see really great things coming out of it. So my future, my growth, I see it in that. But I appreciate the opportunity I still have with radio. But what we have to understand is that radio is not a job. Radio is a platform, it's an opportunity. It's here today, it's not tomorrow. Anything can happen. So I'm preparing myself for any eventuality that I have to remember I'm a content creator. A radio station hires me because I create content. And we forget that. And what often makes us forget that as broadcasters also is the bureaucracy that is within radio stations. Obviously, radio I see a kaigini. They have policies, content programming policies. So sometimes you're unable to do what you really want to do because the station is going a particular direction that is planned for, budgeted for. But you've got this content that is itching you and you want to pursue it. Podcasting provides that opportunity. And that's where I see my growth. Not closing out any opportunity that may come in the future. I think the question should be, what is the future of radio? What do I see? But it's also a correct way to also ask the question, is radio dead? Or is radio dying? It goes to the same end. Radio has been able to survive many technologies in the past. It survived TV. It survived the internet. It survived the CD. It survived the MP3. It survived the streaming platforms now. But there is something radio will not be able to survive. But it will have to evolve to survive it. So far, all these technologies, it has been able to survive them without changing. The future of radio is not that of stagnancy. if there's such a word. Stagnant. Stagnancy. But you get what I mean. The future of radio is visual. We are entering a space where people want to see the person who's talking to them. Radio has been called the theater of the mind. The future we're entering into, that theater of the mind must be seen. We've had in the past radio stations that would have cameras in the studio capturing moments. They call them studio cams, and it will take still pictures every few minutes, and you'd see, oh, the presenter is now so and so, this is how he's dressed, oh, now see, he moved to there, would do that. But the future of radio now requires that the whole radio must be visual and viewable. What do I mean? Everything is moving towards what has already been prepared, which is the Internet of Things, which opened the way for the fourth industrial revolution, where everything is connected at high speed of an internet. Therefore, cameras need to be in the studio, and the radio must be able to be done anywhere. I am seeing a place where if radio does not evolve and become visual in the studio, podcasting will disturb radio. Because in any case, many parts of the world have moved on to digital radio. And if we are now digital, then what stops us from having cameras while we broadcast? Moreover, anybody can create content. And in fact, there are people who are not on radio who are creating podcasts that are very compelling. Listeners now have an opportunity of options. Why must I listen to you? Remember, in the past, people listened to radio for many different reasons that were important to them. For example, people needed to know what time it is. They depended on radio for the specific time. Not now. How many gadgets you have? Your watch is digital. Your phone has a watch. Your house is now digital. You can simply ask your home connection, what time is it now? And there'll be a home theater speaker that will respond with Siri or whatever platform and tell you the time. So radio is no longer serving that purpose of time. People listen to radio for news. Now, for news, radio is even delayed with news. People have news on the palm of their hands. That purpose is still there, just like some DJs refuse to move from vinyl to CDJs because they loved the art of seeing that vinyl turning. But the time has changed, and the generation that's coming is embracing everything that is coming in as new. And the generation that's old, that appreciated old things, is quickly growing old and irrelevant. So radio is forced to evolve. That's what I see. Podcasting and radio has to become one if radio is to survive. Though that is the line of thinking that radio managers need to be thinking in. In fact, to add on top of that, not just the managers, broadcasters themselves, in order to survive, need to be able to equip themselves at home to be able to broadcast and podcast to anywhere, anytime. We're getting to a space where from your house, you can do a radio show for any station in the world. You can commission shows as long as you have the right equipment. And equipment has become cheaper. A typical radio desk for radio can cost you between 250,000 to 500,000. That's too expensive. A podcasting desk like the Rode Podcaster, which does exactly the same thing that a radio desk like Exia does, which is expensive, at a fraction of the cost. Podcasting, radio, TV, billboards, magazines, and anything that people consume information with. We are all together in the business of attention grabbing. The more attention of more people you get, the more money you can get, because you're going to sell that to those who want to speak to those people through advertising. The more people's attention who have money that you can get, the more money you can make. If you can prove that my audience is these people, this is how much they earn, this is how much they spend on such and such, and that becomes feasible, how you collect those statistics, then nothing stops you from making the money that radio makes. In fact, currently with South African radio, which has not moved to digital yet, podcasting can prove better with their statistics than radio does. The science used to calculate radio listeners currently is what I call a scientific thumb suck. A scientific thumb suck. So when you hear a radio station saying we have so many listeners, they can't prove it beyond no radio station currently can prove it beyond any reasonable doubt. It is a scientific formula to say, because this is where our frequency is able to reach, and we have spoken to so many people and asked them what radio stations they listen to, we estimate that these people represent a certain number of listeners, and this number listen to this station and this number listen to this station, and we then demographically think this is what the people represent. That is thumbs up. With digital, it's a total different story. If a person listens to your podcast, you can know exactly who they are, where they are, and be able to dig deeper and find more information. If a person comes to your Facebook and views your Facebook video or picture, you are able to follow who those people are and what they represent. So digital is able to collect more information than analog is able to. So digital promises a more accurate information than analog. Analog, you just have to have some experts behind your statistics saying we think is correct. Does a person need to study for radio? Different people have different views on this matter. One thing that I need to say as a precaution to what I'm about to say is that education is important. Having said that, I don't think studying radio is a good idea unless you study the law that governs broadcasting. See, if you study that, then you are making a difference. But if you're going to study how to open the microphone, how to record an advert, you could just as well learn that thing by going to LinkedIn Learning or the many different tutorial platforms and learn what you want to learn. You can go to a radio station, like a community radio station, and find an opportunity there and make your mistakes and learn. But learning, studying, going to a university, spending 3 to 4 years towards a degree or diploma on radio, I think you're wasting your time. You'd rather study the things that surround the art of radio or the business of radio. For example, you can study copywriting, you can study marketing, you can study management, you can study IT. Those are things that are quite necessary in any radio station. But when it comes to radio itself, go do radio. Don't go study radio. In any case, you can study all you want. In radio, there is a class of radio in every radio station called the Snoop session that deals with getting rid of anything you've learned before to be aligned with the culture of that particular radio station, where you sit down with the program manager of each station, of the station you work for, and they coach you on the style and type of radio they require you to do on their station. So, I don't recommend the studying of radio. Study something else. Do study, but study something else. Find a community radio station. When you enter in there, decide what it is you are interested in radio, because there are many things. For example, there is news, there is compiling of the music, there is presenting radio shows, and radio shows are also different. There is current affairs, there is music, types of radio shows, there is financial type of radio shows, the different subjects that are being dealt with. You need to decide. But also, once you are in, don't just focus on the broadcasting. Learn as many things that you may be interested in around radio. Be it the making of radio ads, the creating of radio imaging, the marketing of a radio station. Learn. Put yourself in different spaces within radio. Don't just focus on one thing. Don't be one band. Even though you know that this is what I like to do, but learn other things around radio. It will empower you. I am a brand ambassador for Vodacom. I love the relationship that we have. It's been a year now, and there's positive talks that we may be adding another year on top when the period of the contract comes to an end in 3 months. I'm very excited about that relationship. Vodacom is quite keen on not just me as a brand ambassador spreading the word and the positivity around the brand, but Vodacom is also interested in helping me grow. I'm also a mentor with NYDA. The only thing that disturbed us now is the COVID-19, but I am considering now to continue with those mentorships. I've got a couple of young people that I'm mentoring. One is two are musicians. One is a rapper, one is a singer. I also took on a radio personality as well recently. So yes, that is another opportunity that comes because of my journey with radio and the entertainment industry at large, mainly in the province of Mpumalanga. So there comes a lot of wisdom and know-how with time. And that's what I share. Not from a position of, I know you don't know. From a position of, let's share ideas. Here's what I think about what you say you desire. I hope somebody gets encouraged and they get to chase their own dream. I'm a believer in chasing what you really desire. But you must answer the question. How bad you want it. I work for Rise FM and I am podcasting as a DJ and doing different culture interviews with different contributors to the culture of entertainment in South Africa via my website, premiumbeats.co.za. So if you want to know anything about myself, rush to premiumbeats.co.za. On social media, I go by the same handle, Premium Beats SA. That is at Premium Beats SA. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is the Big Zill Onair, aka Mr. Premium Beats via premiumbeats.co.za. This has been my journey about radio and entertainment in the province of Mpumalanga in South Africa at large and growing into the world. And I'm very excited about this opportunity to be invited to share. It's all possible, and that is why we use the hashtag. It is possible. This has been an episode of Careers Exposed.